exciting week, Joe. Always is when the NFL kicks in and colleges certainly have started. So, my goodness, there's an awful lot going on.
And let's take care of a little business firsthand. Got some programming updates here as we are right in the middle of football season starting. The Blue Wahoos, congratulations to them on making the postseason here. We have high school football, we have UWF football, so a lot of stuff happening here as we are right in the middle here of kind of a really important time in the calendar, especially here at ESPN Pensacola. So we do have Gator Talk coming up at 1 o'clock, so Florida Gators back in action this Saturday. So Chad Brillante will be in studio hosting that. That starts at 1 o'clock today. Thursday, UWF kicks off their season starting at 6 o'clock. They will take on Carson Newman away from home. That will be on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Wednesday, 6:30, the Wahoos will be starting their postseason at 6:30. That game's here on ESPN. On a weekly basis, whenever Florida State does have home football games, myself and Coach K, will have a pair of tickets to give away for those games. So for this week, we do have a pair of tickets to give away for Florida State's home game against University of Louisiana Monroe. So once a show, we will be playing the Florida State Seminoles War Chant. When you hear the War Chant, call or text us 972-1945 to get registered for a chance to win. Winners will be announced on Friday, and you'll have to pick up those tickets on Friday afternoon here at our studios. Some more details on our website from that. But once a show, we will play the Florida State Seminoles War Chant, and when you hear that, give us a call or text us 972-1945. So if you want to win some Florida State tickets, just keep on listening, and we'll do our best to get those to you. So that being said, Coach, let's move on. So Zeke Elliott on his way back from Cabo to Dallas. 2 years left on the contract. We've discussed that all before. The Cowboys just agreeing to terms with La'el Collins, their outstanding left tackle today. And I think an interesting note, Coach, is that in that new deal for La'el Collins, it frees up about $6 million worth of cap space. And I know a lot of people, especially those that cover and really know the ins and outs of how the salary cap works, are suggesting that is basically the final piece to the puzzle that will enable to get Zeke Elliott the money that he is looking for, especially in the front end of the contract. So Zeke is on his way back. He doesn't have the contract signed yet, but it would seem like all signs are pointing that way within the next 24 hours or so that Zeke Elliott will be signed.
Well, it looks that way. I really thought Dallas might make an example of him. Make him live up to the additional 2 years on his contract and play it. But looks like they're not going to do that. So he should be in there. I guess he'll be in and ready to go.
And La'el Collins, again, signing an extension with the Cowboys. So the Cowboys now inking long-term deals for Collins as well as Jalen Smith. Previously, some of their other outstanding linemen, Zach Martin, got a deal before. So the Cowboys are doing what they can to keep all of their core pieces intact, especially that offensive line, one of, if not the best offensive lines in football. So that's a really important step, so we'll certainly keep our eye on the Cowboy situation, see if Zeke does agree to terms there. Florida State. So this came out late yesterday, when head coach Willie Taggart had his radio show. And, Coach, you and I talked a little bit yesterday about what we saw, what we think may have been going wrong. In the second half, Florida State, they started hot. They scored pretty easily in their first three series of the game. And now talks kind of centered around, were the players ready physically to play? I'm going to play some audio for here. This is Florida State center Bavion Johnson in talking with reporters. This is what he had to say. This is a pretty eye-opening comments for me, Coach.
Conditioning went our strong suit, and that's what we plan to get work on, and we plan to improve this week.
What's kind of the goal there to get back in the game shape?
The goal is to perform all our reps at practice the way they need to be performed in the game, because in actuality, the way you practice is how you perform.
So do you think you guys weren't prepared for that game?
No, we weren't prepared. I wasn't prepared. We all weren't prepared. We need to get better.
Was it like the speed of the game, or?
I felt like it was just conditioning overall, and that's what we need to get better at.
So that's the starting center for the Seminoles saying flat out, we were not prepared. And for as many problems as we saw, the lack of discipline, just the structure, to hear that, especially after the first half that we saw yesterday, on Saturday, just an incredulous feeling that I have here. Willie Taggart yesterday on his radio show, quote, I think after going through last weekend and seeing our guys going down and cramping, one thing we talked about with our medical staff is our guys got to hydrate. That can't be on Friday. They can't be on Thursday. They need to start hydrating early in the week and take care of their bodies. We can't leave it up to our players just to do it. We've got to force them to hydrate and take care of themselves. I don't know if we did a good job of that last weekend. One of those situations where you live and learn, and we'll make sure that we help our guys when it comes to that.
Well,
I
let me.
I mean, I don't want to overreact, but I mean, come on, like.
Well, hydration is important, and we used to start on Wednesdays for a Sunday game, getting them ready, and it would increase as we went through the week. Hydrating is important, but that's an excuse on this. I mean, you don't use, even if you didn't do a good job with it, you don't use that as an excuse at this point. That's just that's sour grapes. You just can't do it, and players know that.
And I guess for me, Coach, and again, I don't want to overreact to what I heard and what Coach Taggart's comments are here, but Coach Taggart coached at South Florida for 3 years. He most of the players that are on his team are from the state of Florida. We heard a lot of people talking about, the key to this type of game would be, Boise State not being used to the heat and humidity. And for this to kind of be the storyline here 2 days after the fact about a team playing at home in Tallahassee where you should be very familiar with the conditions, for them to say, we weren't prepared, to have my starting center say we were not prepared, as a coach, for me, that's a red flag.
Yeah, and there are a number of issues there when he talks about practice. And the insinuation was that from the center that they didn't practice to win a ball game. Well, let me tell you, they should know from day one, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And that's the only way you can get the honed edge that you need to play. You got to practice above and beyond any scope that most people would imagine. You just got to be there.
Yeah, so I hear all the chatter, and I want to believe, I really do. For Florida State fans to feel like their program is headed in the right direction, I want to believe that Taggart is the guy to do that, but I've seen too much evidence that would point to the contrary, and this is just another a leaf on that pile to me, is that we talk about attention to detail, and what separates the elite coaches from the really good coaches is that preparation and attention to the smallest details. This to me seems like a big detail that you just can't overlook, especially given the fact that you're in Tallahassee, Florida in August. It's not a new thing to have to deal with this type of weather conditions. It's just inexcusable to me if this is in fact the reality.
Yeah, and we're not sure what the reality is, other than the fact that they did not look prepared for situational play, meaning take the ball game over in the second half, which they should have been able to do, and some of the lack of tackling that we saw, just turning a tackle down, you can't have that. So other than that, we just, there's a lot of speculation, but it's not good. Whatever the circumstances here are not good.
One of the big games of the college football calendar coming up on Saturday, Coach, is Texas A&M traveling to Clemson. Clemson, Chad and I were talking about this on the Sports Drive yesterday, is that in games where Trevor Lawrence starts, Clemson has not won a football game by less than 20 points. I thought that was really interesting, going back to ACC and even in the college football playoff last year. So Texas A&M coming to town. It's one of the two really marquee games in Week 2, 2:30 o'clock kickoff at Clemson. And as a coach, I don't know if you heard these comments or not, or have seen this yet, but Jared Hocker is starting guard for Texas A&M. Probably gave Clemson the thing that they don't necessarily need, and as a head coach, you probably don't want to give them, and that is bulletin board material. This is what Jared Hocker had to tell reporters yesterday.
Make them right for an upset?
Oh, yes, it does. There will be an upset.
What did you see from Jay Sean last week running the ball?
There will be an upset. It's not quite Namath-esque in the guarantee there.
Yeah, you don't want to see that. That's uncalled for, really. Just, what you do speaks so well, no need to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, so like I said, Clemson doesn't need the extra motivation, but now they have that. And if you're coach, you know Dabo Swinney pretty well. The chances are that this has been posted in the locker room somewhere.
Oh, without a question, it has. Yeah, it's been posted. A video of it, I'm sure. Probably have a recurring
on the 24-hour loop.
On the loop. Yeah. So certainly they'll make use of that. Yeah.
We'll go ahead and take our first break. Coming back, more news and notes from around college and professional football. Again, be listening when you hear the Florida State War Chant. We will have you give us a call or text us at 972-1945 for a chance at winning a pair of tickets to the Saturday's game.
Now we got Tim Brando coming on.
Tim Brando, yeah, he's going to be on the phone at 12:15 here, so we'll take a break, come back, and he'll for sure have a recap of what he saw in Week 1 as ahead to a look at Week 2. So stick around. Tim Brando on the phone next with us. You're listening to Talk Football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Don't drop the ball this football season. Make Tom Thumb your game day destination. We are your first round pick for snacks, chips, dips, and drinks. Are you tailgating before the game? Don't get blindsided. Head to Tom Thumb for all your supplies. Score big savings with our rewards card. You'll earn 4 fuel points for every $1 spent in store. From hot dogs and buns to ice and propane, Tom Thumb has you covered to help you enjoy the game. For the ultimate game day, team up with Tom Thumb, the local store for local champions.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Sometimes your bank, your family, and your friends love you, but they don't have the money to help you. Sometimes we have chances to make money, but the old saying, you've got to have money to make money, rings true. At Pensacola Specialty Pond, we can help. If you have trucks, heavy equipment, airplanes, boats, jet skis, anything with value, Pensacola Specialty Pond can loan you that short-term money you need. No credit checks, and at Pensacola Specialty Pond, you're going to find the money and the discretion you need.
Now at 6428 Pensacola Boulevard, north of Car City. Call 432-9050, 432-9050.
School's back in session, and at AutoZone, we've got the free services you need to get your ride ready. Like our AutoZone Rewards program. Members get a $20 reward every time they spend $20 or more 5 times. If you're looking to reward your ride, get a 50-pack of Pro Elite Grab and Clean microfiber towels for only $19.99. They help you clean and protect your vehicle to give it a shiny finish. Visit us at AutoZone.com to start the job fast. See terms at AutoZone.com/rewards. Restrictions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
At ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1, we are football. Catch the biggest high school football games on Fridays. Every UWF game on Saturdays. Then on Sundays, get ready for big games with the NFL Tailgate Show from 10 till noon. Plus, talk football with Coach K weekdays from noon till 1, recapping the games and breaking down the upcoming matchups. It's football season, and it's on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 on the FM. You're listening to Talk Football with Coach K. Joe Ford and Coach K. Stevenson with you in studio, reacting to what we saw in week ahead and already starting to look ahead towards a busy and fun week 2. Texas A&M Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas and LSU, the headliners in week number 2. And when it comes time to talk college football, there's not very men better to talk with than Tim Brando, and Tim is on the line, and Coach K, the man with the golden Rolodex there. And Tim, thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Yeah, Tim, thanks so much again. Yeah.
Well, happy to be with both of you.
Listen, let me just throw out in the biggest possible question here. What are your thoughts after week 1? A lot of surprises, I'm sure.
Only, Kay, that it's proving my point that college football has plenty of parity. It's just with the system we have doesn't allow for the fans to understand it or see it until after they actually plays out on Saturdays. People will say, "Well, this or that team is bad, and it's a bottom feeder in this or that league," when we see teams like Georgia State do what they did, Wyoming, Nevada do what they did. And that's just such a cop-out. With the 85 scholarship limit and really good coaching at a lot of different levels and a lot of different schools, these teams get next to no credit. They get their checks as they're leaving. In the case of Georgia State, they get $950,000 and a W, and they walk out of Knoxville with a victory. This happens every year. The names of the teams may change, and the teams that are the upset victims in the power conferences may change, but it remains. And for whatever reason, the mainstream media, when I say mainstream media, I want people to understand, I'm talking about not the Big Ten Network, not the SEC Network, not the ACC Network. I'm talking about Fox, FS1, and ESPN. If you're watching any of the daytime programming, you hardly hear, you wouldn't even know who these kids are. You wouldn't know who Dan Ellington, have you heard Dan Ellington's name of Georgia State mentioned really at all, either
No, I haven't.
yesterday or today? No, because the lazy butts that are in daytime sports media don't want to discuss incredible stories. And what Elliott has done as head coach, that's an amazing story. What a 2-10 team in the Sun Belt just did. That wasn't some sort of mirage where the robots that were playing for Georgia State, just cleaned up on a Tennessee team that didn't dare. They were physically whipped in the second half. They were getting yardage on the ground in chunks. They were gashing Tennessee.
Yeah.
But that's the world we live in today, Coach. We've got a system which basically tells America we only need to care about 4 or 5 teams. Did Clemson romp? Yes. Did Alabama romp? Yes. Did the others in all the other big? That's all that we care about. We don't care about college football as a whole. And college football as a whole is alive and well with a lot of good teams, and anything can happen. But does it matter that anything is happening when we only have 4 teams at the end of the year, and we all know who they'll likely be? A cobble of maybe 6 or 7 teams that are trying to get to those 4 spots. Then some of these amazing stories from weeks 1 and 2, these non-conference games that have, in my opinion, that's really what's great about college football. With a 28-point, 35-point underdog can win. You don't see that in the NFL. You don't even see teams favored like that in pro football. But it's always swept under the rug because God forbid anybody in the media have to work, to find out more and tell us some stories about these guys that are pretty incredible stories at all of these different schools that people don't follow on a regular basis.
Oh, that is very, very interesting, Tim. I couldn't agree with you more. You make some excellent points there. We should, the NCAA should have you out on tour, my friend.
Well, it's really unfortunate. I was thinking Bino Cook, my friend and a guy I learned a lot of sports history from, who was with me on the original game day. Bino was a tremendous publicist, worked at Pittsburgh in the 50s and 60s, and then went on to become Root Arledge's right-hand man at ABC, and he was the guy that got the Arkansas-Texas game moved from September to the Thanksgiving weekend in 1968, which led to the game of the century when President Nixon was on hand. Bino had an appreciation and understanding of the history of the game and what that history should mean, and incredible stories. And he would lock on to, for instance, I'll give you an example. Do you remember the quarterback at Holy Cross back in 1986? He finished, I think it was 3rd or 4th in the Heisman, Gordy Lockbaum. Do you remember that
Yes,
name?
I do. Yes, I do.
Well, one of the reasons why America had to meet Gordy Lockbaum was because Bino Cook was in the offices in Bristol telling every one of those guys, we got to do a story on Gordy Lockbaum.
Yeah.
In today's world, a player of that caliber at a school like that, no one would ever meet because no one wants to tell the story. No one wants to take the time to tell the story. That's, to me, what separates college football. And we're beginning to lose that, Coach. We're beginning to lose that based on all that matters is who's in and who's not. Like today, I wake up and I'm hearing after week 1 of this group, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, who's in the best position for the Heisman balloting?
Heisman is a big deal.
Are you kidding me? That is as absurd a talking point to have. And the reason why it's there is because it's easy. It's low-hanging fruit. No one wants to put in the time and effort to tell the stories of some of these amazing kids that went out, played their butts off last week, and did the unthinkable. Or even the story about how in the world did Missouri wind up scheduling. Okay, why would they have even scheduled a game at Wyoming? Why would you do that to yourself? It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, doesn't shock me too much about Missouri. I think Missouri, you talk about a team that was overblown this year. In my opinion, my humble opinion, it was Missouri.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you there. But it definitely, if you look at what Alabama does with its schedule, what Clemson does with its schedule, you know, athletic directors and coaches need to understand there's just some games you don't want to play.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Why in the world would you be flying out there? I mean, that's an upset waiting to happen. You got to know that.
Sure it is. Absolutely it is, especially to go on the road and play them. It's bad enough playing them at home and giving them the big money to come in. You know, Tim, going back, I still feel lost without you being in the studio on Saturday, every Saturday, with SEC football primarily, CBS. And how do you, now that you've had a few years away from it, and I know you wanted to get back into the game, more into the game itself, how do you...
Right, I wanted to be at the booth. I wanted out of that studio. As much as you enjoyed me being there, I wanted out.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just move you, being an old SEC guy, move you to Atlanta or Birmingham or Baton Rouge or somewhere. But anyway, how do you assess what you're doing now? Are you enjoying it?
Oh God, yes. Yeah, I love it. Now this will be one of those weeks where people will say to me, and it will happen because I'm doing the Penn State Buffalo game. Buffalo, by the way, is a hell of a story, and I really look forward to that game because the old coach from Wisconsin, Whitewater, Lance Leipold, who used to always go up against Mount Union in the Division III national championship. His Buffalo team last year won more games than they ever won. They lost their bowl game, but they won 10 games, which was amazing. They haven't been playing college football there for very long. And they're going into Penn State in prime time on Fox, Big Fox, on Saturday night. We'll be on opposite, obviously, the LSU Texas game. And I'll get this, Bob Brando, we needed you there, and why aren't you doing that, Gary? I'm like, well, because I'm at Fox, and we have a deal with the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the Pac-12. And, I just want to do games. I don't care where they are. I just want to do games. And when I was at CBS, Vern was there, and it looked like he was going to stay there forever. And so I was maybe a little impatient, but I left. And when I did, Vern left a short time after that. But games are games, Coach. Where they're being played. The art form of getting to call football in the booth is just such a fun thing, and that's what I grew up wanting to do. The studio was great to me, and it played a huge role in my career with the advent of game day, and I mentioned that time I spent with Bino and all that. But I just felt like at the time, this is my 6th year at Fox, so I would have been about to turn 58 when I left CBS, and I feel like I've got a new lease on life. I've got a lot of energy and enthusiasm because I really love what I'm doing. Going back and forth to New York every week, which was what I was doing at CBS, that's, with all due respect to the Big Apple, not really football country. It's not really college football country. When I go into Happy Valley, or last Friday I was in East Lansing, Michigan, and I'll be back there for a game with Arizona State next week, which I think is going to be a hell of a game on Fox a week from Saturday. That's always fun. So it's, the job description of what I'm doing now is so much more enjoyable than what I've been doing in the studio all those years. So where the games are may be of greater consequence to the viewer than it is to the broadcaster. For the broadcaster, it's getting to do it. Where you're doing it doesn't matter quite as much as a lot of fans might think.
Well, you did a great job at the studio, Tim, obviously, and you're doing a great job, and I'm happy that they're very pleased with what you're doing now. Let me jump to quickly. I had an awful lot of interest in the Oregon-Auburn game, primarily because you get a chance to see a Pac-12 team that has some hype coming in, with a quarterback that has been hyped, that you don't get to see very much, and an Auburn team with a young quarterback. But at any rate, the very interesting football game. I thought the outcome is fairly significant of that ball game. I thought Oregon's a good football team. They're not a bad football team, and probably should have won that ball game.
Yeah. They outplayed Auburn. I thought the old offensive line coach, that's what Mario Cristobal is. I thought that really showed up in the fourth quarter. You got Justin Herbert, who's likely to be, if he's not the first quarterback taken in the draft, he'll certainly be in the top 2 or 3. And he coached his Oregon offense as though the freshmen were Herbert, as opposed to the freshman being Bo Nix at Auburn. Auburn allowed Bo Nix to be the leader and to take the opportunities and go for it in a manner that Cristobal would not allow his quarterback in the fourth quarter. Now, I do think there was one major bad break that went Oregon's way that has kind of been forgotten about, and that was when they needed a yard on fourth down, Herbert had gotten banged up. And if you recall, he wanted to get him back into the game. He took a timeout, and he actually thought, I think Cristobal thought, after taking the timeout, he could put him back in to run the fourth down play. Well, you can't do that. By rule, he's out of the game. He's got to be out for one play. Well, that meant he was going to have to run one of his running backs into the line, and it was a very predictable play. He lined up strong left. He ran left, and Auburn was ready for it. Kevin Steele was absolutely ready for it. I think everyone knew what Cristobal was going to do. That was a bad break that went against Oregon at a critical time. But if you look back at the way they were running their offense in the first half, and look, they blew scoring opportunities, missed field goals, and missed opportunities in the first half. And when you do that, it's almost, you've coached enough games, you know that. At some point, the opposition has a better chance to come back and get you, and that's what happened. But they were not nearly as inventive or as creative with their play calling in the latter stages of the third and fourth quarter as they were in the first and second. And, Kay, I thought that was where Auburn, again, I give Malzahn, Gus didn't have his best day, his first day calling plays again, but he was back to who he really is in the latter stages of that game. And I think he had confidence in his freshman quarterback in a manner that Mario Cristobal did not have in his veteran quarterback, who could have easily opted out and gone to the NFL this year.
Let me tell you, one of the great things from a coaching standpoint, Tim, and I mean it's right at the top of the list, to see especially a young quarterback, a freshman, have the poise and the confidence at the end of a big ball game like that to come in. Now, he had to make at least 2 of those throws had to be right on the money. And I'm talking about he had to place the dime out there. And he did it, and did it in a most competitive situation.
He did. And he had a couple of mistakes early, some interceptions.
Yeah.
And you think sometimes when that happens to a freshman, particularly on that stage, he could be a little shell-shocked. He was every bit Patrick Nix's son, He was a coach's son on the field. And Gus understood that, knew that as a play caller, he had to have amnesia because his quarterback had amnesia. And to me, that was the difference in the game. I applaud the kid, but I also applaud Gus for understanding that this was an opportunity not just for the young man to have a seminal moment in his career, but for the long term, what this could do for Auburn, we can't calculate that now.
No,
I mean,
can't.
We just can't.
That's right.
I mean, the potential for what this young man may do because of the success at the end of that game. That's one of the reasons why I told a lot of people, even with Auburn's difficult schedule, and it is incredibly difficult, especially when compared to, say, Alabama's in their own state and in their own division. Mm-hmm. You cannot discount what this means for Auburn because of the confidence level it's going to give this young man and his team towards the young man. in terms of the
Yeah.
ability to go out and make plays. If they had just played for the field goal to win the game by 2, I think everyone would have understood. But I think that Gus, this is where having a 7-year, $49 million contract and a hellacious buyout may actually work in your favor. He decided, you know what, I'm going to give this young man a chance to win it with his arm and make a play. And what that means is they weren't just trying to win this game. They were trying to send a message to their team about what they can accomplish this season. And look out, I'm telling you, Auburn could be one of those. It could be like 2013 all over again for them. I mean,
that could be the catalyst. That you never know. Something like that, they tend to rally round, and it creates a momentum that you can't build otherwise. You can't do it with an awful lot of verbiage or whatever. You got to have something like that happen. And I will say this was a great stroke for Gus, because frankly, I don't think he did a good job there 2 years ago, and I'll give you a little build up to it.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, talking to some of my friends out there, scouts and coaches,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, when Stidham agreed to go to Auburn from Baylor.
Right.
And everything I heard was this kid is the real deal. He's everything you want in a quarterback. He's going to be a heck of a steal for Auburn. Well, Auburn never, ever utilized Stidham in the way that he was most ready to help them. And if you look at what he's doing now up there with New England, it's just unbelievable. He is the real deal. And but I think they misused Stidham the whole way.
Well, I'm with you, and I'll honestly tell you, I think that Gus Malzahn is a much better coach when he's calling his plays. I think he's much more engaged. I think it's who he is. He's not, and a lot of coaches believe once they become head coaches they start making all this money. And I think a lot of times fans are responsible for this. It's like, well, he's taking too much, put too much on his plate. He's not going to be as good. Listen, I think for Malzahn, whether he wants to admit it or not, okay, I think he is so much more hands-on when he is actively involved in the play. Now, you may not be happy with every call that he makes, but because he's making those calls, he's truly engaged. And maybe that should have been going on with Jarrett. Maybe that should have been because I know some of these guys that were working for him. Chip Lindsey didn't just fall off some turnip truck, but he wouldn't let it do its job. He was hovering over him. And I think there was everybody kind of was walking around on eggshells based on everyone I talked to.
Well, I always call my own plays. I always did it myself. No question.
I think certain coaches need to do that. I really do. I believe Mark Richt would have been a better head coach had he continued to call his own plays. I mean, his best work was done when he was working for Bowden at Florida State. His absolute best work.
Yeah.
And there are, Gus is not the only example. I just think a lot of times when the coaches go to the so-called bigger school and it's more high profile and there's more on their plate to do that's non-football related, because a lot of these big programs, it is a lot to take on. They feel like they have to delegate. And delegating is an art form too. But if you know yourself, what makes you a better coach, and that, in your mind, if that's play calling, then you need to keep doing that. That's in your best interest. Steve Spurrier is the last, I think, coach, if memory serves me correctly, he's the last head coach to win a national championship calling his own plays. And I can't imagine Steve not calling his own plays.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I just cannot imagine that.
Well, that's true. Of course, I think Jimbo Fisher calls his plays too.
Yeah, maybe Jimbo did. Maybe Jimbo did call his too. That's right. I forgot that one. I forgot that season. I apologize.
Got some interesting games coming.
There aren't any. But there aren't any, Coach.
No, you're right. You're right. There are very, very few. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of extra time to prepare to to call a ball game. I can tell you that. And but hey, if you're going to get blamed for it one way or the other, you might as well do it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me. I'm keeping you on here a long time, and I apologize for that, Tim. But my goodness, we could go for a couple of hours. Let me ask you about this week coming up here, because we got a couple of big ones, truly big ball games coming up this weekend.
Yeah, don't think that when I'm calling that Penn State game in prime time, I won't have a dangling eye on the monitor in there on the LSU-Texas game, because I will. During commercial breaks, I'll be asking about it and looking over at it. We'll have a screen in there so I can check it out. In addition to that, the Texas A&M Clemson game is obviously huge, and I think really because Clemson doesn't have an opponent on their schedule in the ACC that's nearly as talented as A&M. So, how Mond responds as quarterback on the road in a big game, I think they should draw some confidence, Texas A&M, from how close they played them last year in College Station. But the difference, I think, for this Clemson team now versus even then is the emergence of Travis Etienne as an unbelievable back. Coach, I don't know about you, but just watching some of that game with Georgia Tech on Thursday night, a little bit of it. I don't know if you were able to get the ACC network or not, but I did skip a little bit of it while I was preparing for my game up in Michigan. Etienne is just I don't know how you stop that kid. I mean, I just don't, and especially within the offense that they run, because they're getting him the ball either out of the backfield or in the passing game with little bubble screens and the like in space. And if he gets some room, the cuts that he can make in the open field are just unbelievable.
The cuts and the speed, the speed after that.
Yeah, it's just incredible what he can do. And I with Trevor Lawrence pulling the trigger and Etienne as a guy that is a go-to game breaker, and these other kids that have replaced the wide receivers, they all look pretty good too. So I think Clemson will have. I think they'll pull away from A&M pretty substantially in the second half. I don't see that game being particularly as close as maybe others would see it. Now, Texas LSU is a different story. That game to me is one that will take the winner and put that team. The winner of that game immediately propels into the conversation with Alabama and Clemson as can't-miss teams if they can just continue to hold serve. Now, Texas will be challenged, obviously, when they play Oklahoma. They may be challenged again in the Big 12 when they play Iowa State or TCU, because I think that league is better than people realize. But Texas is the real deal. And playing in Austin, from a defensive standpoint, I think will get them excited. But here's what a lot of people down in Texas don't realize. What LSU did the other night against the Georgia Southern team that won 10 games last year, that's the kind of game that a few years ago LSU would have stumbled around, maybe won the game, 24-10 or 31-14 or 31-17. They would not have put their foot on the jugular and rolled a team that they were physically better than. This is the new LSU offense that's running quick and allowing Joe Burrow to go out and be a difference maker. They're trying to win because of the quarterback, not despite the quarterback. And I think LSU can go into Austin and win the game. I think they're favored by 3 or 4, and I like them to win it by more than a touchdown. I think LSU's offense is really going to surprise a lot of people in this matchup. And I saw Texas a couple of times last year, and they're good defensively. They really are.
Yeah.
But where I think the problem will come for Texas is Sam Ehlinger, who is a heck of a tough kid, a lot like Burrow in a lot of ways. I don't think he's as accurate a passer as Burrow is, and especially if you get pressure on him. Ehlinger can be forced into mistakes, and he won't see the space, between his receiver and the defensive backs that he's accustomed to seeing in the Big 12 against LSU's corners. They'll be press man all night long, and I think Grant Delpit will make some big plays. So that'll be a hell of an exciting game. It'll be close, but I think LSU will pull away and win it.
I think you're right, Tim. Listen, I really truly wish we had another hour to go here. I apologize for keeping you on so long.
Oh, I love it, Kay. You can have me anytime.
I do appreciate it, and would love to have you back during the season, if that's
Please
okay,
do.
Tim.
Give me a call anytime you like.
All right. Thanks again.
Okay, buddy. Bye-bye.
Tim Brando, our guest here on Talk Football with Coach K. Quick timeout, and we'll come back with more. You're listening to Talk Football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
Don't drop the ball this football season. Make Tom Thumb your game day destination. We are your first round pick for snacks, chips, dips, and drinks. Are you tailgating before the game? Don't get blindsided. Head to Tom Thumb for all your supplies. Score big savings with our rewards card. You'll earn 4 fuel points for every dollar spent in store. From hot dogs and buns to ice and propane, Tom Thumb has you covered to help you enjoy the game. For the ultimate game day, team up with Tom Thumb, the local store for local champions.
Hello, sports fans. Miles Bentley here, General Manager at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram in Pensacola. Growing up, I always loved sports. Nothing but net, out of the park, through the uprights. Sink the puck Bentley, that was me. But my love of the game couldn't beat my love for Pensacola and helping folks get on the road of dreams in a new Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Sure, I never went to the big leagues in sport, but we're all pro here at Hill Kelly Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Proud to be in Pensacola.
Now's the time to travel and be with the people you care about the most. And at Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, we're helping you be there for less. Save at least 25% at thousands of hotels worldwide if you book by September 24th. You won't want this moment to pass you by. So book today at holidayinn.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Tuesdays are the worst. They're all that stands between you and the downhill part of the week. But now they're a lot less worse, because Wing Tuesdays at B-Dubs are buy one, get one free traditional wings. So Monday, you may kick off the week. Wednesday, you may have a cool nickname. Thursday, you might be the almost weekend. But watch your back, because Tuesdays just officially became Wing Tuesdays. Buffalo Wild Wings. Roar! Buy one traditional wings order and get one of equal value free. Participation and promotional details vary by location. Check in with your favorite Buffalo Wild Wings to learn more about this offer.
Talk football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. We just heard from Tim Brando. Good stuff there as he joined the program to talk football with the coach. And Coach, I think he made a really interesting point there. We've talked a lot about LSU and how I think they're the third team in the SEC, really the only one for me that can really contend for the title if they get good quarterback play. We saw what Joe Burrow was capable of, and Tim really seemed to make the point there that he believes even as an away team, that LSU with a pretty decent advantage at the quarterback position, mainly because of the conference they play in, the type of athletes that they have, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that, and I thought Tim made some good points, and obviously he was pointing to, in no uncertain terms, not only Joe Burrow, but the system that they're now utilizing. My goodness, he had, I don't know what his final stats were as far as percentage of completion, but had to be off the charts. And he is just he's just playing very, very well. I couldn't agree with him more. It's a big game, though. It's going to have a heck of a lot to do with the playoffs, the college playoffs.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, the other game that we'll certainly get a chance to break down, the one in the afternoon, SEC, ACC, Texas A&M, and Clemson. Already some bulletin board material going up for Clemson there, offensive guard for Texas A&M. Not quite the Joe Namath guarantee victory, but very confident that the Aggies will be able to get it done. Won't be easy. Since Trevor Lawrence has taken over as the starting quarterback, Clemson has won every single game by at least 20 points. Only time they didn't was a road game against Boston College, who was ranked 17th at the time there. So a lot to look forward to this Saturday. Take our final timeout and come back. We'll talk some more NFL. We have the music, the war chant. That means now's the time. Give us a call or text us, 972-1945, to be entered to win a pair of tickets for Florida State and their home game on Saturday. We'll be back in a moment.
I'm attorney Stephen Luongo with Levin, Papantonio, Thomas, Mitchell, Rafferty, and Proctor in Pensacola, Florida. Distracted driving is a dangerous epidemic on America's roadways. In 2016 alone, over 3,000 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. This according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. For more information, please visit us today online at levinlaw.com. Please be safe on the roadways. Stop the text, stop the wrecks.
When you're looking for a great deal on a reliable new or certified pre-owned vehicle, you can't beat Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola. Bob Tyler Toyota has the best selection in town at incredible low prices. You can check out their amazing inventory from Camrys to Tundra trucks to 4Runners. It's all at Bob Tyler Toyota, and you can find it online at bobtylertoyota.com. Also score a touchdown this football season with the car of your dreams. Again, it's only at Bob Tyler Toyota in Car City, Pensacola.
There's only one place in town for the lowest prices and greatest selection of firearms. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Visit our fully stocked Gun Pro Shop for new and used firearms, accessories, and ammunition. Check out the Indoor Shooting Range. We offer rentals on guns, including fully automatic machine guns and silencers. Ladies, this is the safe place to learn how to use a gun. Plus, Tuesday is Ladies' Day. Women shoot for half price all day. The best place to buy firearms in Pensacola. Pensacola Indoor Shooting Range. Highway 29 in Car City.
Talk football every day with Pensacola's own Coach K.
The key on offense is going to be whether Franks can come back and duplicate what he did in the last 4 games.
Every weekday, noon till 1 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola is your home to UWF Argos football. Catch every game, home or away, on Pensacola's home for local sports. ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola 1330, 99.1 FM. Joe Ford and Coach K with you here as we are talking college and professional football. Week 2 of the college football season. And I'll have a Thursday game there. The big game on Thursday night is going to be the kickoff of the NFL's 100th season. The Bears hosting the Green Bay Packers. And, Coach, we'll certainly have more time to dive into this one, but I know we've talked as we've looked. We both are under the assumption, the opinion, that the NFC North, it will be the best division in professional football this year. And really, it's up for grabs. We both think that the Minnesota Vikings have a really good shot of winning the division, but we have Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, a new head coach, and Matt LaFleur. LaFleur saying that Aaron Rodgers has basically a full carte blanche to change any call at the line of scrimmage that he wants to. I don't know if that was the case under Mike McCarthy, although I think it probably would have been, given how long they were together. But one of the more interesting storylines of Week 1 will be Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't played at all this preseason, in a new offense for the first time in a number of years, as Mike McCarthy's no longer in charge there. So quite an interesting game to kick off the NFL season. Usually it's the Super Bowl champions who kick things off, but going with the big rivalry game to kick off the season.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's tremendous interest, that particular ball game. I think it's the oldest rivalry played in the NFL, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how this works out with LaFleur and Rodgers. Now, I can't believe he's going to be given carte blanche, authority to change any play. Usually what you do is you have plays grouped into twos or threes. We'll have take his choice of which one to go to. And then you'd have one or two overriding plays that anytime he wanted to go to, he could go to them. Other than those, there are always coaches don't change the play. Okay? So it's usually a run. Usually is well planned based on one side or the other. You call it to one side or the other, but stay with the run. In other words, you can call it left, you can call it right. You take your choice, but you run that play, that particular play. And don't go to a pass, don't go to a screen, don't go to another run outside. We want to run it off tackle. And those are the types of restrictions that you almost have to have. And you can't allow a quarterback just to mastermind the whole ball game.
Yeah.
When you've spent all that time, your coaching staff, preparing to the extent that no player would have the time.
So you think it's more than likely that Rodgers can audible to a group of plays that he's given, but he can't just pick whatever play he wants?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's say you'd have he's got four different groupings of three plays. These three plays, these three plays, and these three plays. And you call that in play. You call that in. Let's say we just call that Detroit.
Okay.
And he hears over the speaker Detroit.
Uh-huh.
And he knows he's got those three plays that you've got under the Detroit heading. Pick one of them. Okay.
Okay. Well, good insight there, but so we'll see if there's any kinks that need to be worked out. Imagine there would be, as this will be Aaron Rodgers' first go this year in the new offense. But hey, he's Aaron Rodgers. He's been around the block a time or two, so certainly should be able to make do with the offense that he has there. So NFL news and notes that we're going to be keeping our eye on again. It is progressing. We'll say that, to the point where Zeke Elliott likely will be with the Dallas Cowboys this week. He's on his way back to Dallas today. Does not have a contract agreement in place, but there is a lot of chatter on the in the world of the Twitter and Facebook and all that. Schefter and all the NFL insiders are reporting that a deal is close to be done. And frankly, Coach, I don't think that if it wasn't really close, that Zeke wouldn't be on his way back. So I think this time tomorrow we're talking about Zeke Elliott, and we'll look forward to seeing what, if any, playing time he gets if he signs by tomorrow.
Tomorrow's practice is crucial for the ball game this week.
We will see you tomorrow to discuss if Zeke is back in camp. Talk football with Coach K, ESPN Pensacola.
It's almost fall, and that means football. And ESPN Pensacola 1330 is all about football. We've got...
It kicks off the weekend, followed by our very own Davis Allen on the Sports Call.
Antonio Brown, I'm having a tough time believing in.
And your home for UWF Argonaut football.
Keep going, let's go!
On Sunday, join us at World of Beer for the NFL Tailgate Show. The season is here, and we're not playing games. Well, actually, we are. ESPN Pensacola 1330, FM 99.1.
That's football, guys.
Hear ye, hear ye. I bringeth thee a message from... a message from the king and his new trumpeter, Stephen. The king wishes me to convey his favor to thine team and thine tailgate. Not yet. He invites thee to let the Bud Light flow forth. And he also wishes me to tell thee that he toasts thee. Waiteth until the end, Stephen! With game day's favorite light lager and the slogan of his kingdom... Oh, Dilly Dilly!
Enjoy responsibly. Bud Light Beer, AB, St. Louis, Missouri.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
And welcome into Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. I am Chad Brilliante. The fun transition. I guess, we'll look at this as Inside the Huddle with a former Florida Gator quarterback right there on a Go Gators show with Coach K. Stevenson. We're going to have a lot to talk about today, and Florida got to escape the presence of what was a week the SEC would like to forget. But they got to wait and just sort of said, South Carolina, Tennessee. All right, boys, it might be a little bit easier of a season than we might have thought. So overall, it was a tough week for the SEC, but a big win by Auburn. Let's give it up for Bo Nix and an incredible comeback. Alabama continues to do Alabama things. You know when you're good when it is 0-0 at the end of one quarter and people are like, oh, my stars, what is happening? And you end up winning 42-3 to a bowl team from last year in the ACC. It's going to be an exciting season. Let's not get too crazy into the semantics of just 1 week. But for the Florida Gators, is this show centered around the Florida Gators? The Mouth of the South, Paul Feinbaum will be on from 2 to 5, breaking down on everything going on around the SEC and some of the stories like Hugh Freeze getting rolled in on a medical bed to coach a game. But overall, we're going to break down Florida Gator football today and have some fun. Joining me, as you can hear him right here each and every afternoon as well when he joins us on the Sports Drive, our guru and former, always a Florida Gator alumni, part of the Northwest Florida Gator Club. He is the one in charge of all of this guy is trusted with the money, the cash, the green, the orange and blue right here. Our good friend, Jeff Davis. It's a good idea to do that with a guy who is a banker. Jeff, how's it going, by the way?
Doing fine, Chad. And actually, just to clarify, I'm actually the secretary of the club this year.
Okay.
Laura Mott, who's a much better accountant than me.
Okay, all right.
Is actually the club treasurer.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, would you trust me with money?
I just winked at you, right? Is that what we got? Jeff, how was your football weekend?
Football weekend was good. There was no pressure because the Gators weren't playing. So you just sit back and watch football all day long and enjoy it. And I thought we had a pretty doggone good time watching it, and plenty of compelling games and exciting storylines.
What was the one thing out of the biggest, as the Florida Gators, because like I said, it's so easy to get in here like a kid in the candy store after a 3-day weekend. We were working yesterday, but it was one of those got to show up and everybody was excited to talk football. But at the same time, with all that being said, we're looking at a season where I think Florida's opponents, and I'm not going to say that they're going to be that way all the time. I think a couple of those teams came up and snake bit them when you talk about what happened with Georgia State against Tennessee or South Carolina, who we just know as Gator fans know that Muschamp is good for at least a few of those complete blow-down type games where you think it's in the bag and then, next thing you notice. But I think the SEC East in general Jeff, looks a whole lot nicer for the Florida Gators to chomp their way to victory outside of Georgia, because with Missouri, Tennessee, both of those teams losing, South Carolina losing, teams like Kentucky didn't look great against Toledo. I think a lot of those borderline games, they're the difference between the Florida Gators being a 10-2 team and being a 7-5, 6-6 team, is that it looks a lot better going into week number 2 than it did at the beginning of the season.
Well, I mean, you've got to keep things in context.
You would agree with that, though, right? I mean, based on
what we saw was a really, really bad Tennessee team. I think that the Gators have a significant advantage on them. We saw what I thought was an average Kentucky team, a Kentucky team that's not nearly as good as it was last year. They won the football game. Missouri, though, should have won by 3 touchdowns. They had a 97-yard fumble return for a touchdown and another fumble return for a touchdown. They intercepted a pass. Kelly Bryant threw for 423 yards. Missouri's not going to go away. They just it was one of those things where they just got in a certain situation and environment and end up stumbling. It's not a bad football team. South Carolina, I think, is a better football team than they showed. They were up by 11 points going into the fourth quarter, and then Muschamped and closed down the offense. And I don't think Jake Bentley hasn't regressed. The guy's a pretty good quarterback, but I think South Carolina's a lot better than a loss to North Carolina. Generally, the East is probably weaker than what we thought, but I wouldn't, as you said, let's not knee-jerk to the first week, because the whole Florida lost to Kentucky in week 2 and then was slaughtering Florida State and Michigan at the end of the season last year. So you've got to – things change and morph and over time during the course of a football season. So I wouldn't dismiss those teams that lost that quickly.
I look at social media, and for everybody out there sort of being Nelson from The Simpsons, sitting back and laughing at the Gators for having a bad fourth quarter, 60 yards of penalty on a final drive, that they still won. A team was pretty much mocked for a week in week 0 for a win. It wasn't a good performance, but they won. Now all of a sudden today, a lot of people are creeping back into that little cubby they have in the corner. Shh, not here anymore. Where if you look at those South Carolina, Tennessee, Florida State, a lot of fan bases out there that were giving the Gators a little bit of a grief in orange and blue have sort of been silenced a little bit more this week after what was pretty much across the board is what we realize. And I've been saying it because all it takes is 2 eyes and a decent brain in football to realize right now that it is Clemson, Alabama, probably Georgia, and then everybody else. And that's how it's going to be. LSU's got a shot. And if LSU can put together the pieces, they've got the athletes. There's the potential for the Oklahoma or Ohio State. There's the potential. But if any of those teams I just mentioned played on a neutral site game against the other 2 in Clemson and Alabama, it would be at least a 2-touchdown favorite for Alabama or Clemson. Since Trevor Lawrence has been the quarterback after the first game where he didn't get to play the whole game and he got hurt, since that Syracuse game, over the past, I believe it's now, I think he's played in 11 games. I want to go back. I want to make sure on this. But not one game has been within 3 touchdowns. And the average score has been a 39-point victory. 40, and this is past the cupcake schedule. This is in conference ACC, which some could say it has been that way. But 40 points, and then beating Alabama and Notre Dame in their bowl games by combined outscoring those 2 opponents by 60 points in 2 games. This team is way above everybody else, and same with Alabama. And then everybody else is trying to get in. So, look, Florida this year, I look at the Florida Gators, and I think based on the schedule, based on the opportunity, that the Gators have a legit shot of going 10-2. I've looked at their schedule. Now, after what we saw against Miami, it's not going to be easy, but they've got a legit shot of going 10-2 this year. Georgia and LSU look like the 2 games that you pencil in as Those are going to be the really tough ones to prove otherwise. But the difference between Felipe Franks gaining the confidence, settling down, what do you think, Jeff? And I'm sure you've read a couple more stories on the Florida Gators. You listen to the podcast shows and read Go Gators. You go on to places like 247 Sports and check out a Gator Bait magazine and everything going on. What do you think? Do you think Dan Mullen has had a serious chat with Felipe Franks? Because Dan Mullen is a fun-loving type of coach compared to many. But at the same time, some of the antics that were borderline, I'm not one of these, I can't believe he's doing that. But when you're kicking footballs into the stands at the end of the games or pumping up your team or on the sidelines when you should be on this with your team on the sidelines but running back and forth. After the game, that's fine to get people high-fiving people in the stands. What do you think? Do you believe he's talked in closed doors to Felipe about gaining the confidence? Because over the next 4 weeks, he should have no problem doing that based on their schedule.
Yeah, I think he probably has. Now, publicly, Dan Mullen in his press conference this week said, listen, if the last pass is not that interception where he gets hit from behind and is a pass to a 10-yard crossing route to Kadarius Toney that goes all the way, and he throws for 330 yards and 1 pick and 3 touchdown passes, then it's a whole different scenario. And I think most of the people are piling on Franks because of his sideline antics and the fact that it was caught on camera. There's a lot of people that do that, but very few people that get caught on camera, saying like, "It's me, it's all about us," and stuff like that. And so, I bet that Mullen said, "Listen, whenever we score some points to go ahead by 4 points in the fourth quarter, come over there and stand with me, and we'll talk about the next series, and not let's not high five with the crowd and whatnot." So he's still got some growing up to do. He's a redshirt junior now, so he ought to be fairly grown by now. I think that I thought Florida was the better team in that game. They turned the ball over 4 times. They didn't turn the ball over more than twice last year. Franks only threw 6 interceptions in 13 games last year, fumbled once. In this game, he fumbled once and threw 2 picks. I mean, that's the reason that Florida had only 54 offensive plays, because you can't turn the ball over once a quarter and expect to survive. And they were lucky to win the game because of that. I think Florida's a much better team than they've shown. They showed that game and what the media – that was the only game in week 0. And so everybody had that game to pick apart and just and just rain down on Felipe Franks for throwing that pick and for his sideline antics. If he had done either one of those things, they'd be singing "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow."
Well, and now we're back to regular math, folks. It'll be week 2 when they play next, and it'll be against Tennessee Martin, a good team to take it out as a 41-point favorite in this matchup. It looks like we got pretty lucky along the East Coast. My family lived right there in Melbourne, Florida. So with Hurricane Dorian right there, it sort of skimmed up the coast, and they're going to get some rain. The Bahamas got hit really bad. 5 people already accounted for in the death toll. But overall, and I'm sure it was even more after they found out today. But I think a lot of people across, and when I say this, a hurricane of that magnitude, of 185 miles per hour, if it would have made landfall, would have done some devastation even to the coast, even up through places like Ocala, Gainesville, Orlando. It wouldn't have had the winds of right on the coast, because you get a lot of that with the beach erosion and the damage with the waves and the wind gusts, because there's nothing protected inside. Once it hits land, it dissipates. But it still would have been devastating to the whole area. So that's a good news for the Gators in this game. They're not going to have to resolve. They're not going to have to change their plans and make any excuses for anything going on, not from their football stadium, but trying to move for their fan base trying to head to the game.
Absolutely. The Gators were kind of lucky to play that week 0 game, because that Miami game was scheduled for August 31st initially. Had that hurricane done what it originally thought they was going to do and go up the middle of the state, then the Gators would have probably lost 2 football games. They'd probably lost the Miami game and the Tennessee Martin game, because you can't, if you've got a hurricane going up the middle of the state and just knocking trees down everywhere, all of your police officers and your first responders and your law enforcement need to be, mitigating the damage and controlling things. And so the Gators would have probably canceled the Tennessee Martin game and also canceled the Miami game and played a 10-game schedule. I mean, the Gators have played 3 11-game schedules in the last 5 years because of 2 hurricanes and weather. And it's kind of becoming an acute problem now because these hurricanes seem to be more and more severe as they come up, and they always seem to show up in early September.
The Florida Gators show right here is brought to you by the Holman Law Firm. Stephen T. Holman, his son Justin, doing a great job. You can give him a call today for a free consultation at 850-316-8243. Proud sponsor of Go Gators and the Florida Gators right here as the best parents, both parents. And father's rights takes care of it. If you're dealing with a divorce, it's a tough time. It's never nobody likes to get into it, but Stephen T. Holman will make sure that father's rights are protected, and that, by the way, across the board, that it is an easy transition. A great guy and a man that has been a proud sponsor of the Florida Gators for many years. And I know Jeff, he does a lot with the Northwest Florida Gator Club, and it's great to have a guy like Stephen T. Holman here in town.
Absolutely, Stephen and Justin, terrific Gator fans, and we're proud to have them as part of the Gator family. And great attorneys, go see them.
Yes. Go see them if you need to see them. You don't want to go there. It's like when my best friend's a doctor. You say, yeah, you know what? I like to see you on the weekends with a beer, not in your office. If I'm actually visiting you, that's not a good thing. I don't want to see you unless we're grabbing lunch. When we come back, we're going to talk a little more Florida Gator football as Jeff Davis, Northwest Florida Gator Club. He's going to talk a little bit about the old ball coach, Steve Spress, they'll call him that, is the HBC in town in Pensacola last week. It was a great time out there at New World Landing. A lot of Gator fans showing up, and Jeff will break down more on that event. We'll get to more on the big party going on for the Northwest Florida Gator Club this weekend at Seville, and having some fun talking some Gator football as really a schedule ahead in the SEC East that they know they're going to have to get up. But today, and this is just my opinion, games like Tennessee, South Carolina, Missouri feel a little better than week 0. Coming back for more right here on the Sports Drive.
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
Hi, Marty Smith here, and my friends at Marathon are really helping you save. Because right now you get 5 cents off every gallon every day with Make It Count rewards from Marathon. Plus, you can earn points for additional savings on fuel, airfare, hotels, and more. It's quick and easy to join. Just visit makeitcount.com/radio or download the free app. So start saving today with Make It Count from Marathon. Offer valid only at participating Marathon locations. Marathon, fueling the American spirit.
You're in charge of hiring, and Indeed has solutions. Like Company Pages, where you can get people excited about working for you. And we give you this toy monkey, which will bang its cymbals when the right resume appears. Okay, there is no monkey.
I said there is no monkey!
But Company Pages, for sure.
See why independent research by Silk Road shows Indeed delivers 3 times more hires than any other job site. Visit Indeed.com/promo to try Company Pages for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Sports commentary, legendary interviews, in-studio guests, expert opinions. It's the Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante.
A guy like Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, they know they could go to another team and put up freakish numbers, but sharing the wealth across the board makes them a better team.
Catch up on the day's biggest sports stories on your drive home. The Sports Drive with Chad Brilliante. Weekday afternoons from 5 till 7 on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back to Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante with you here every Tuesday from 1 to 2. Jeff Davis joining us as well, part of the Northwest Florida Gator Club and proud Florida Gator sponsor. Davis Allen, just a great guy as well. Popping in here as a Gator fan. Give a little shout. Go Gators. You know, he was out there covering the game on the field for Florida and Miami in Week 0, and you can catch him on the sports call from 11 to 1, always doing a great job. Well, Jeff, Tennessee Martin. We don't need a huge breakdown because I don't even know if there's websites to find all the information, but it is a 41-point spread in this one, and this is a game where perfect game to really figure it all out from a standpoint of just gaining confidence, because I think that's the biggest thing for Florida. Florida's got athletes. I mean, you could tell real quickly the teams that have the name but maybe don't have the athletes they used to have, like Louisville last night. Louisville at one time was a very good team. That was not they were playing well, and Jeff actually texted me. Sorry to get back to you, by the way. But I mean, that wasn't a great football team like they used to have with those guys in the middle, like Darius Rankings. I mean, guys that were huge and made some plays. I think this is a team right now that in Florida showed the signs that they've got great athletes, and we know that. It's all putting the pieces together and growing more confident like they did last year. And remembering that they got a lot better from when they played Kentucky in 2018 to when they finished the season against Michigan. It's a different football team. And getting to play a team like Tennessee Martin coming off a bye week, Jeff, we're not going to know everything about this team. I don't think we can break down or analyze. They've changed or turned a page completely against this team. But from a confidence-building standpoint, it's the perfect game in this scenario to have.
It really is. And you know, the one thing to note about the Gators' performance in Week 0 was that they missed 20 tackles. And they only averaged missing 8 tackles a game last year. But everybody seems to miss more tackles in that first game. Miami missed a bunch of tackles. Florida State missed a bunch of tackles in Saturday's game. And it's because during that fall practice now, if you don't have a whole lot of depth, you're not going to have these guys colliding with each other. Because, I mean, you lose both starting corners and the season's over. So you almost put a red jersey on those guys just like you do the quarterback. And so they're not used to tackling and wrapping up. And as the season wears on, and Brian Harsin from Boise State said the same thing the other day. He said, listen, we missed a lot of tackles in the first half. We started to wrap up in the second half. We'll get better progressively during the course of the year. But we're not going to risk our players, our defensive backs and our safeties, by having them thud people the entire fall practice. It just doesn't make any sense.
Looking at the Florida Gators and the situation with the defensive line, it was an incredible week. But a lot of guys, we were getting to know guys like Grenard, and we were getting to see a guy to step in, because last year, even though his draft stock in the offseason was a little bit difficult for a guy that we saw really dominate over his career when he was at Florida. And that was a guy last year, when you look at that Florida Gator team, he was one of the biggest names. And then you lose a guy like Chauncey Gardner. And all of a sudden, Gardner Johnson, for the people, he added extra part to his name. But I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. And it just seemed like between him and Ja'Kai Polite, those two guys were such a vital part of that defense last year. Their draft stock went down a little, but the Gator fans knew they were going to have to replace 2 stars last year and part of the SEC East, all Big East type, all SEC East type players. I think a lot of guys stepped in real quickly, like Jabari Zuniga, guys out there that we saw like Grenard that we didn't know a lot about from Louisville. And these guys have stepped in and made a huge impact. But how much to you, Jeff, is that Miami's offensive line is very awful, or how much of that are these guys Pro Bowl, NFL-type caliber players?
Well, there's probably a little bit of both in there. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because Grenard was Louisville's best defensive player 2 years ago. And he, against Alabama in the first game of the season, he tore his Achilles tendon, and he was out for the rest of the season. And then now he's at Florida. And then you've got Zuniga, as you mentioned, could have gone to the NFL and been maybe a mid-round pick, but decided to come back. And then a guy like Jeremiah Moon is now finally healthy, And so the Gators have 3 or 4 not elite quality edge rushers, but very, very good draftable quality edge rushers. And so they're going to put pressure on the passer the entire season, even if guys get hurt. You mentioned the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's star position, which is kind of that monster man of that 5th defensive back. Trey Dean's playing that this year, and struggled just a little bit in the first half the other night, but came on strong in the second. And once he learns that position and gets some battle experience, then I think he'll be fine there. I think the Gators safeties held their own in the game. Gators safeties got criticized during the spring game because they were kind of loafing around, letting the offense score. But you can't judge anything based on that. The Gators have all 4 of their safeties in their last year's rotation back. So are they get any worse? I don't think so. But Grenard transferred from Louisville, which we saw Louisville play last night, and Louisville looked pretty good offensively for a quarter and a half, and then they kind of imploded.
Yeah, the fun back. See, if you say back to back to back in baseball, it's exciting. Back to back to back home runs, lady. Back to back to back fumbles is not cool for anybody.
That's one of the things that Florida got criticized for in the Week 0 game. And then you see Louisville and Notre Dame turn it over
3 straight plays.
I mean, so where's the criticism there?
Do you think? And I know this is probably a question first off that never can have an appropriate answer. But do you think more fumbles today in football is because culture is weaker in football? And what I mean by that is the athletes are big, but to fumble a football is sometimes all about effort of how you want to. These guys carry that sometimes razzle and dazzle, like they're carrying one of those puppy dogs in a purse, like one of Paris Hilton type things, instead of carrying it like it used to be. Used to be told when I played, I was an option quarterback. My job was to pitch it to the faster guy and have him run for touchdowns and then take a whacking. But I remember they said before, if our offensive line, which stinks, they break the line and penetrate, they come at me, I better not fumble the football. Even if I'm pitching it and get crushed, don't fumble the football. It was something of, if you fumble, you might lose your job if you're in week 2 of the preseason in the NFL. Back-to-back-to-back fumbles was never a thing because people felt like if you fumble the football, it could be over. Nowadays, I mean, it seems like every 5 or 6 plays the ball's on the ground. Whether it's recovered or not, it's different. But the ball seems to be on the ground almost every play. And I feel like we're going towards an age where you're just seeing not as many guys being mentally tough out on the football field.
I think, just to calm you down just a smidge,
I was calm doing that. It was
I think that
back in my day,
I think that the Gators never fumbled the ball more than once in a game last season, and I think those guys are coached to carry the ball high and tight, and the coaching techniques are as good as they've ever been, and you see it's been a general decrease in fumbles over the last 15 years in college football because of that coaching. Now, week 1 and week 0, you're going to see a little bit more. Florida fumbled the ball twice was just an anomaly because it was twice as many times as they fumbled in any game last year. And one of them was a mesh point fumble where, Piron's trying to take it away and Franks is trying to rip it back out so he can throw a touchdown pass to a wide open receiver. And the ball gets on the ground and Miami gets it. Another thing that they practice probably not enough in the early season is fumble recoveries. And Florida fell on probably 4 fumbles in that Miami game they didn't end up getting. They somehow they got the ball, bounced out or got scraped out. So you got to teach the kids to be able to get on the ball. And so that's offensive and defensive fumbles. And Florida was probably on 4 fumbles. First guy there that they didn't get in that Miami game.
A little Florida Gator insight with Jeffrey D., our Florida Gator guru here for the day. As Jeff asks you the question, as a Florida Gator fan, we're going to play a little who would you want in the big moment, all-time Gators, Kevin Carter or Javon Kearse getting to the quarterback?
I'll go with Kevin Carter. Javon Kearse was a freakish athlete, but it was very, a little bit inconsistent in what he was doing. I would go with Kevin Carter. And I think the most consistent Gator linebacker of all time is Mike Peterson, who ended up being the leading tackler in the NFL twice with the Indianapolis Colts.
You need a big stop right there on 4th down. Who is the one guy that you want on that Gator defense? Is it Wilbur Marshall, Jack Youngblood, all time?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I didn't get to see enough film of Jack Youngblood. I know he's a great player, but I'll go with Wilbur Marshall.
Okay.
Wilbur Marshall was
he was
just
incredible.
Dominant. He was
at both levels. He was great in the pros too.
Absolutely, and he was on that Bears 46 defense that won the 1985 Super Bowl against the Miami Dolphins. Just a terrific player.
You need a big touchdown by a wide receiver.
Wes Chandler.
Wes Chandler over Chris Doering?
Over Percy Harvin.
Over Percy Harvin.
I think Chris Doering's a great player and a guy that's reliable. And yeah, I mean, if you're down at the 10-yard line.
Over Brandon Powell.
If you're down at the 10-yard line and you need a touchdown, I'd go with Chris Doering because you throw the ball up, he goes and high points it and comes down with the touchdown.
Florida Gator quarterback that never got enough credit, and I'm not taking Felipe Franks as an answer.
I think if Jeff Driscoll had been coached better, he'd have been more productive. I think Jacoby Brissett lost that starting job in that battle with Jeff Driscoll. Now he's making $30 million a year. So those two guys kind of come to mind. Kay Stevenson comes to mind.
There you go.
Because he was on the bench behind
That's right.
Steve Spurrier. And Kay could have been a starting quarterback at almost any other school in the country.
Yeah. Got drafted in the NFL and went on to be the only Pensacola native to coach in the NFL as well. And we're lucky to catch him from 12 to 1 each and every afternoon. And he stays friends with a lot of those guys like Jack Youngblood and a lot of the people that you can catch only here today. I was listening in Tim Brando. I mean, always has great interviews each and every day from 12 to 1. Okay, big moment, crunch time. Tim Tebow, Danny Werfel, or Steve Spurrier? I mean, personally, I feel like this one's pretty simple. I'll answer this. It's Tim Tebow. But I think Danny Werfel, obviously, he was, because of being a guy from Fort Walton Beach, being a guy that just does so much off the field, is a good man, a charitable man, and just a good overall human. That was a Heisman Trophy winner and national champion during the Steve Spurrier era, that core mid-'90s that I remember as a kid going to the games with my dad. I think he means a little more. But Tim Tebow, because that's an era where most people are like, Urban Meyer. But Tebow was like, they're like, Tebow, Urban Meyer. But the national championship was there. What do you think? Is there even a comparison, or is it definitely Tebow?
Well, I think that Werfel kind of rose to the occasion as well. And, Werfel, of course, was able to beat Florida State for the national title. And he, remember those 4 Gator teams he was on, won the SEC title every year, 93, 94, 95, and 96. He's unflappable. And, that's what he had, courage. And that's what Steve Spurrier and always said about quarterbacks is if you've got courage, then you can play, because you can't think about the onrushing Florida State guys who are going to hit you in the gut with your helmet. You've got to stand in the pocket and throw the football. So, that's like picking between your 3 children. It's all those guys were great. I'll go with Tim Tebow.
All right, and then from a running back standpoint, this one's going to be tough too, because remember, Emmitt Smith was the all-time leading running back in NFL history, played at Florida, and went on to be a Dallas Cowboy behind an offensive lineman we'd all smile playing for. However, Emmitt Smith or Fred Taylor in the backfield for the big run at Florida.
That's I'll probably play Pensacola homer and go with Emmitt. Emmitt didn't have the quality offensive line or the passing attack that made the other team spread the field and get another guy out of the box. Emmitt was running against 8-man fronts and still succeeding, still averaging 1,300 yards a year for his Gator career. And that translated well to the pros when he gained 17,000 yards in his career at Dallas. Now, Fred Taylor's terrific.
He's part of that '96 national title team.
He was, and he was instrumental in that year, no doubt about it. I mean, so again, that's a really tough decision. I'll go with Emmitt.
Any other guy, all-time leader, all-time great that when you showed up at the games, you just love to watch because you like to see the whole game, and a lot of times might not be the guy that's the mainstay, the GOATs like Tom Brady. Obviously, we were going to say that collectively. I'm getting head shakes in studio. But when it comes down to and Eric, by the way, it's good to have him back from the old ESPN. We'll get to more on that.
Absolutely.
But is there one guy that you always loved as a guy that maybe isn't on that list of Tebow's and Harvins and the ones we always talk about?
Well, I mentioned Mike Peterson. I thought he
Yes.
was maybe the best Gator linebacker in history that gets overlooked. And, again, he was a Pro Bowler, NFL's leading tackler two years in a row. And then, of course, Wes Chandler. Wes Chandler was, if you ever watched that documentary on ESPN about the Manning family, they've got a little football game going in the backyard, and Eli and Peyton are small children. And Archie's back there, and he's filming, and Peyton says, "I want to be Wes Chandler." And so that guy was incredible. I mean, anybody that watched him, this was late 70s, early 80s. The guy was just an incredible football player, and went on to San Diego to be an all-pro, Pro Bowler for years at San Diego. So that's a guy that I would probably pick.
Florida Gators, after the bye week, get a chance to take on Tennessee Martin 1-0 after a couple teams around them in the East struggled this week. They get a chance to come out and prove that, well, they're going to crush a team by more than 41 points as expected. Go Gators. We're coming back for the Go Gators show right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. It's brought to you by the Holman Law Firm, Father's Rights, because the best parents are both parents. We're coming back for more right here on Go Gators on ESPN Pensacola.
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
Check.
Yeah, so much rhythm. Babysitting your kids while they play the jazziest jazz I've ever heard jazzed is totally fine. But what's actually frustrating is the check you're handing me and the days it will take to clear. Next time, just send me money with Zelle.
Night out better. Pay your sitter easily with Zelle. Look for Zelle in your banking app.
Must have a bank account in the U.S. to use Zelle. Zelle is an early warning services trademark.
Now's the time to travel and be with the people you care about the most. And at Holiday Inn and Holiday Inn Express, we're helping you be there for less. Save at least 25% at thousands of hotels worldwide if you book by September 24th. You won't want this moment to pass you by. So book today at holidayinn.com. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
And welcome back to Go Gators right here on ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM. Chad Brillante, Jeff Davis, and Eric Vidrine joining us up here in studio. Eric, it's good to have you back. I know you've been over there hanging out with the arch enemy of the show here in Florida State. But how's life going?
Life's going well. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an arch enemy right now for the simple fact that we haven't really been in the game against them past couple years. It has to be competitive in order for it to be a rival, is what my dad always said.
Yeah, that nobody takes that serious. Look, we claim fake national titles at my school. Things happen these days. It's a new world. Just go to page 175 of the rule book, and when people were Josh and me, like, look, everybody else is bashing each other. UCF's just winning 62-0, and then everybody's like, you still claiming that? I was like, no, I'm not claiming it. Just page 175, folks. Just read the rules. Overall, though, it's been a exciting week. What did you think of that Florida-Miami game? Obviously, it wasn't the most great game visually in the fourth quarter. I think the first half, the Gators really looked good. They made some great plays. I was shocked, as Jeff and I talked about, Kadarius Toney did not get more touches. How quick. And he wasn't only quick, but a lot of times those speedsters over the years, the Will Demps, the Chris Rainey's, those guys that used to, when they got hit, it's like poof, they usually fell. He just kept going over people like he was in one of those movies, like finish him, just crushing through. He broke like 6 tackles to get that touchdown. In that case, he only touched the ball 2 more times the rest of the game. What do you think of the Florida Gators as a outside perspective based on the schedule ahead in the SEC East? And do you think this is a team that can be in the ballpark to compete? Not to say they're better, because that would not be fair today, but compete against Georgia for the SEC East.
Yeah, after watching the game, I saw a couple things. One, I was beyond impressed with their ability to get to the quarterback. That was something that it was clearly a massive difference between men and boys watching those lines go at it. Mm-hmm. So the way that they were able to control the line of scrimmage was just, to me, phenomenal. At first, my initial thoughts were, I don't know if they really belong as the 8th seed, but looking at the schedule coming up, really there's only 3 games I have a question mark around. I do think they have a tough matchup when they have to go back-to-back with Auburn and LSU, and of course they're going to Baton Rouge this year, so that's always going to be tough. So I do see them probably losing around LSU and Georgia, worst case scenario Auburn. So I definitely think that they will be able to contend. I don't necessarily have them favored by any means, but with the schedule coming up, building that momentum, getting things going, all it takes is for people to play together, play confidently, build that momentum going. You see the upsets in March Madness. I know it's a different sport, but that does have a major factor in your ability to contend and compete. So 10-2 would be my outlook after week 0, as you call it. But like I said, I do think they have a fighting chance to go against Georgia just for their ability to get to the quarterback.
Jeff, looking at the matchup here against Tennessee Martin, it's an expected win. Now, we saw some crazy things. I'm not seeing that this week. This is not going to be a Georgia State matchup against Tennessee. Florida's a better team, and Tennessee Martin's a worse team. But at the same time, I look at this matchup. What would you like to see? I think Gator fans are looking at it and saying, I would like to visually watch this game and be impressed with what? In your case, obviously, it would be, hey, put up a lot of points, no turnovers, and win by a lot. But what would you like to see from what you saw in week 1 against Miami? What, as a fan, as an alum, would you like to see more than anything this week that Florida improves on?
What I'd hope to see is Felipe Franks play a crisp game and just play for a half. Now, Tennessee Martin beat Northwestern State last week, which is one of the 4 quadrants of Louisiana that is not the best one. University of Louisiana and Monroe are probably the 2.
Are they some kind of demon, though, their mascot?
Yes.
Yes. You played them in basketball, didn't you?
No, actually, my
thank you for clearly saying that. Like, absolutely not, Chad.
I do have ties with it though. My best friend Braylon, his younger brother, actually is super athletic. Actually, was the starting wide receiver and the starting point guard for Northwestern.
Didn't
State.
Ask for a family tree, but I'm just playing with you, man.
But no, they are the demons. They are the demons.
My cousin's brother's uncle played point guard in the '60s. No, you're from. You were from Louisiana.
Correct.
You played basketball, college basketball in Louisiana. Just was bringing it up here, throwing it out there, and you threw me back under the bus. But okay, let's get to more on this game. You know how it's going to be. Welcome back.
Yeah, I know.
Look, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, please. You thought you were going to walk in here with kindness here?
I'm saving all of my ammunition for when we get to the Patriots. Okay?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Gotcha.
Since last year we won a Super Bowl, so I would love to hear it.
We'll go to blow with him on the Patriots.
Absolutely,
we would love that. You know what's great is when you're the champion and you get hit. Like let's do a whole show bashing Clemson too. Right after that, we should have that fun as well.
Lawrence threw 1 TD pass and 2 picks this week, right? So isn't he like?
Yeah,
I think Felipe
he did have
Franks
a rushing touchdown.
Right?
All right, go Gators, folks! Back at the looking here at the best Florida Gator coaches of all time.
Well,
before that Tennessee Martin. Let's get back to the game.
Let me get to Tennessee Martin. No, Tennessee Martin won 44-21. Now, that's some of that's fool's gold because Northwestern State quarterback threw for 400 yards. So if Franks has a decent half, he can probably throw for 250. And then I would like to see Emory Jones in the game. I'd like to see him play the entire second half. You've got to have a competent backup quarterback that's got some experience. And so, let's get him in the game and get him some reps and get him confident. I'd like to see Damian Pierce and Malik Davis get the football a little bit in the running game. And so I would hope the Gators would kind of run a tempo offense and try to get as many plays in as they could. And then recognizing that if you're up, 60-0 going into the fourth quarter, that you down throttle and you run the clock out. But I want to see the Gators get, lots of plays and feature those backup tailbacks, the backup quarterback, and maybe try to get the ball to more wide receivers than they did this past week. I mean, the targets were just ridiculous. They had almost no targets for the top wide receivers on the team because they ran 54 plays. Miami pretty much ran the clock out. Whenever they didn't get a delay of game penalty, they ran it down to about 2 seconds. And so they were just sitting on the ball. I mean, Jaron Williams was looking at the bench on every play and going like, what's next? What do I need to do? Let's go have some plays this week.
Looking at the games ahead, we will take a look when we come back at the Florida Gators schedule ahead in really the next 5 weeks. Should be going in 5-0 to take on an Auburn Tiger team. And after watching some of the teams like Tennessee, it looks a little more clear, but you never know. In the SEC, getting up for Georgia State and getting up for a rival like Florida with so many traditional games back in the day, little bit different. So we're going to talk some more Gator football on Go Gators each and every Tuesday from 1 to 2, brought to you by the Holman Law Firm. Check them out right there for a free consultation. You can check out the Holman Law Firm there for your father's rights, because the best parents are both parents, and proud sponsor of the Florida Gators. Check them out today right there. Stephen T. Holman, 850-435-6909 is their number. We're coming back for more right here on Go Gators, ESPN Pensacola, 1330 AM, 99.1 FM.
This is a message for all parents. If you as an adult think it's tough being separated or divorced, have you truly stopped to consider how your being separated or divorced affects your children? How parents treat one another, either during or after divorce, can have lifelong effects on your children. Whether you are separated from your spouse or even actually divorced, in either situation, keep in mind that you and your spouse are parents forever. Hello, my name is Stephen T. Holman, and I am a family law attorney. If you have questions regarding custody, visitation, or child support, call me today for a free consultation at 435-6909. That's 435-6909.
Don't you hate scrambling on the road when you're looking for a place to spend the night?
We all do. That's why when you travel for work, stay at La Quinta by Wyndham.
They've got everything you need to tackle the job, from free high-speed Wi-Fi to a spacious workspace right in your room.
Plus, their bright side breakfast comes with waffles, eggs, fruit, and meat.
Now, that's a game changer.
They've got over 900 locations so you can cover the gridiron.
And best of all, they're part of Wyndham Rewards, so those extra points really add up.
Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you triumph. Book direct at lq.com.
Curb appeal. You know it when you see it. And with the Home Depot, today is the day for doing. Boost your curb appeal with the best brands at the best prices. From new garage doors to colorful flowers, exterior lights to a new coat of paint, inspiration to installation. You can get everything you need on a budget, like select special order windows and doors, now 15% off. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. Offer valid through September 11th, U.S. only. See store for details.
This is Davis Allen, co-host of Sports Call with Davis and Justin. Catch Justin, Patrick, and me every Saturday from 11 to 1. College football is finally back, so join us this Saturday from 11 to 1 on ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1.
ESPN Pensacola 1330 FM 99.1 is all about high school football. Catch the biggest local games every Friday night on Pensacola's home for local sports and our sister station, News Radio 92.3 AM 1620.
You're listening to Pensacola's local and ESPN sports station. Your favorite ESPN radio shows, plus high school and UWF Argo football. ESPN Pensacola 1330.
That just sounds good. Means football's back. Little We Are the Boys of Old Florida. Jeff, you probably know some of the words.
Absolutely.
Everybody does this, at halftime or
end of the third quarter.
End of the third quarter.
Yes.
And I used to go to games with my dad as a kid, but don't know the words. And if I don't know the words, the appropriate thing would be is to just not sing at all. But I try. I'm like that guy in karaoke after about the fifth cocktail that should not be singing karaoke and is looking at the machine, but he's sort of just doing like an AC/DC song, and you're like, yeah, like pretty much do not know all the words, but I try to sing along. That's the point of this.
Absolutely. And what's interesting
there was no
is
good
the
point
Gators,
to that story.
The Gators have been doing We Are the Boys at the end of the third quarter for as long as I've been alive, and but now they've kind of layered on another thing, and that's I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
And
after he passed away from Gainesville.
Yes, he was a longtime Gainesville and a big Florida Gator fan. And so they need about a minute to do this song, and then they need another 2 minutes to do I Won't Back Down because they cut it off a little early. But people are kind of standing around waiting on the third quarter to start, and especially the other teams like, can we get on the field now? So they may have to rethink that and like move Tom Petty to half, in the first quarter maybe.
Just soak it in. College football is back. We're excited here.
We grew up in a Florida Gator family.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
He's heard that a million times.
Yes, I have. Made it clear. Glad it's University of Florida and not Florida University, because my dad would carve UF in our hedge bushes, and it would be really nasty for our neighbors if it was the other way around. So I'm just saying. Looking at the Gators, I think they've got I think right now, would you say, if you had to choose today after what we saw, and I know, like we said, we can't capture everything with just 1 week of football, but do you think the teams that we were trying to see whether they were the second best team or not in the SEC East, teams like Missouri, Kentucky, Tennessee, not really, but they were in the mix. Out of those teams, South Carolina, they all had pretty bad weeks. 3 of those 4 lost, and the only team that won was Kentucky over Toledo. That was very close. What do you think? Is Florida now in a boat to push Georgia, who's above everybody, and that's pretty clear? But are they in a class by themselves with that pack, or do you think every week they're going to have to, it could just be one of those down to the final wire?
Well, I think Missouri can threaten the Gators. I think the Gators will beat Kentucky this year. Kentucky lost a lot. They lost. Kentucky's going to be good like once every 5 or 10 years because they're going to have like a bunch of seniors that are really, really good. They lost 4 defensive players to the NFL draft, and those guys were really good players. And Josh Allen and guys, 3 defensive backs that were just stellar. They're not going to be as good this year. And Tennessee is. We've seen what Tennessee is in the first game, and I'm not going to. And again, I don't think we should jump to conclusions on anybody after the first game, but they just don't have what it takes. They don't have any alpha males on defense. I think Jeremy Pruitt has kind of worn that team down with tough practices, and you can't do that today. I mean, you can't just hammer your players and expect them to respond to you. I think one of the Tennessee alums said, listen, I think Pruitt has kind of lost this team. He sent that to Bill King and said, don't expect anything from the team this year because they don't want to play for the guy. And so Pruitt may well be gone at the end of the year. Missouri is better than what we saw the other day. If they hadn't turned the ball over 3 times for defensive scores, they'd have won. I don't know how good Kelly Bryant is. He's not nearly as good as what they've had for the last 4 years. Yeah, I mean, I think the Gators aren't as good as Georgia because Georgia's out-recruited the Gators for the last 4 years. They've got probably, I think they've signed 25 stars over that period. They still probably have 12 left because a lot of them have like jumped in the transfer portal and said, I'm out of here. But Georgia's the most talented team in the East, and they're really almost as talented or maybe equally as talented as Alabama. I think Alabama's going to out-coach them. I don't know that Kirby's the greatest coach in the world.
Only got a couple minutes left, Jeff. I want to jump right into this. We've got, before we do, Florida now number 11 in the AP poll, 10 in the coaches poll, down a few spots. But look, they know they control their own path when you play in the SEC. Just got to win games. When you start right there in the top 10, you're already in a good spot. And some of those other teams have fallen around them as well. Looking, though, at Florida, the Northwest Florida Gator Club will be down at Seville this week. And they had a big event. Coach Steve Spurrier was in town, and I know you were at the event. How was it, and did it live up to the hype of getting to watch? I know you've seen him. He's always great, no matter what his age is. How was the event last week?
Well, Spurrier's been here in the past, over the years, and sometimes he was enthusiastic about coming, and sometimes not. I remember one time we had him at Scoplos back in 25 years ago, and it looked like he was not real happy about having to come to this event, because you did get to play golf earlier in the day.
Yes.
But this one, Alan Nicholson did a tremendous job of just engineering this whole thing, and Spurrier had a good time from the beginning till the end. And he was afterwards he was telling his staff, and stuff like that, that's one of the best events I've ever been to. So Spurrier was extraordinarily happy. He knew that the fans were engaged. They asked a lot of questions. They were smiling, laughing, and clapping the entire time. So it was a very, very good event.
Well, Jeff, it's been great. Eric, I'm glad that you got a chance to sit in, and looking forward to having you over the next couple months as one of our analysts in sports. Basketball season rolls around. I know you'll be even more excited right there. So
yeah, the Nuggets are good again, so I'm really happy.
It makes one. Makes one of us. Looking at all of us as the Gators continue their path, we're looking forward to it. This week, Tennessee Martin. You can catch that game on Saturday, and if you're looking for a great place,
Seville Quarter is a great place to go watch it.
And kickoff.
And remember, kickoff's at 6:30, the same time that LSU and Texas start. But you can migrate if you want to, if the Gators are on a commercial break, head over to Apple Annie's or to one of the other places and watch it.
Sounds good. This has been the Go Gators Show, brought to you by the Holman Law Firm Father's Rights. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back for more right here on ESPN Pensacola.
It's almost fall, and that means football. And ESPN Pensacola 1330 is all about football. We've got UWF Argos football every Saturday, high school football every Friday night. If you'd like to partner with ESPN Pensacola as a sponsor or promotional partner, give us a call at 262-6000.
ESPN Pensacola, 1330 FM 99.1, WEBY, Milton, Pensacola.
All them dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise. Hit 'em with the flex. From Williams Place to Death Valley. On the Fine Mom Show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama. It's your show. Go ahead. You got a damn burn crappy attitude.
Wheelers up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Danny. Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in the zoo. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to rivalries. On the Fine Mom Show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul.
Paul.
He'll make sense of it all.
I really don't know where to go after that.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
In my life, I've never had a phone call like that. Beautiful day for tennis. That's not too far from where we are right here in lower Manhattan, right across the river. That is going on, but we're not interested in that today. We're interested in trying to pick up some of the shattered pieces of the first weekend of college football, and we say hello to you and hope your Labor Day was a good one. We were in studio yesterday. Some of you may have been traveling, but we had a pretty amazing show, and we hope to replicate that today. As we were heading off the air yesterday, reports were being confirmed that Jake Bentley would be out for a number of weeks. That has now been confirmed by Will Muschamp, who had a lot to say earlier today.
Jake Bentley has a midfoot sprain, which is commonly referred to as a Liz Frank. He will be out for an extended period of time. He's still under medical evaluation. I'll know more in the latter part of the week exactly whether he needs surgery. If he needs surgery, it's going to be a season-ending injury. If not, it's 6 or 8 weeks. But, again, I don't want to comment much further than that right now because I don't know a lot more than that until we continue to get another evaluation. But, again, hurt for Jake, senior year, given a lot to this program. Outstanding young man, exactly how you want someone to represent the University of South Carolina. And just hurt for him during this time. We're pissed off too, as coaches, as staffs. We're in a little bit of a bunker mentality. I don't read your articles and podcasts or whatever you do. So at the end of the day, it's about what do we need to do to win. And let's try and rally to win games. And that's what we're going to do as a staff, and that's what we're going to do as a team, and what we're going to do as an organization. So help us win games. That would be my message. Let's go help us win some football games. And that's what we plan on doing.
Really interesting to juxtapose how Will Muschamp handled defeat versus yesterday when we showed you Jeremy Pruitt. It seemed like Muschamp has it down a little smoother. Of course, he's got a lot more experience at losing as a head coach than Pruitt does. Let's move on to subject number 2. A&M's Jared Hocker. Have you heard this today? Have you seen this today? Yes, you probably have. He was asked about guaranteeing a win in Death Valley, and Jared, it's all yours.
Make them right for an upset?
Oh, yes, it does. There will be an upset.
You guaranteeing victory?
I mean, I'm pretty confident in my ability and our team's ability. So.
A lot of people have been criticizing him, but I don't have a problem. It wasn't that big a deal. And by the way, if you thought the Tom Herman to LSU story was just